What's up, people? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Smackdown. I'm your host, Kyle August. You can follow me on Twitter at KyleMonth8. It is Monday. We're wrapping up this Labor Day weekend, September the 6th. Football is just a few days away. And I'm joined by a special guest today on the podcast from DLF. It's returning to the Fantasy Football Smackdown, TikTok superstar Addison Hayes. What up, Addison?
I don't know about TikTok superstar, but yeah, thanks for having me on, Kyle. I mean, this is so much fun every single time that I come on here, and this is just a redo, I guess, from last year of our predictions kind of show. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see. Hopefully, I do a little bit better this time. But yeah, dude, I'm so excited for this, and I'm excited to talk some football for 2021. Season starts Thursday. I'm pumped, man. I'm in the zone.
Yeah, dude, I'm super excited. My Cowboys are kicking it off against the Bucs. Zach Martin already ruled out, so that stings already. This is going to be difficult as it is to face off against defending champs, but I'm hoping the Cowboys can pull it off. So we'll see. Excited to have football back. As Addison alluded to, we're doing a prediction show here today. We did this last year as well. This is something I used to do even before doing the podcast. Like, I always liked putting the things on paper, just going back and looking at how ridiculously wrong everybody was about all these. So we're going to roll through all our division picks, our wild card selections, our Super Bowl predictions here in early September. And then I got like about a dozen other just random category questions we're going to talk through here. So looking forward to this one. Before we get too far along, Addison, why don't you just tell people what you've been working on this offseason, what your plans are for in-season? Because every time I look, man, it seems like you're putting out new video content.
That's it. That's 100% it. It's the growth of the DLF YouTube channel. We've made a very, specifically myself, has made a very concerted effort to push the YouTube channel, get more into video content. And that personally for me has opened up just a whole other direction of where my content can go and how I can actually create it. Because I had been struggling in the past with written content and stuff. Just because it's writing, right? That's why I went into math in college, so I didn't have to write. Yeah. So there's all that. So and video content, it's a different animal, but it's really, really fun. And once you get the hang of it and you kind of understand, how to do it and create your own, videos and kind of hone in and mold your own craft, it's so much fun and it's super addicting. So that has been my entire off season, basically, has been growing the DLF YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed, please go subscribe, because we pump out videos every single day. And it's not just me. It's a lot of the DLF team overall. We dropped the DLF podcast. Scott Connor and Shane Manila do a show as well. The trade show, me and Dynasty Outhouse, Rush Fisher, Ask DLF. That's the weekly live stream AMA with Calvin and Hobbs and Tyler Karp. So there's a lot of stuff. And we have, obviously content planned for in-season too. So it's going to be a really fun in-season, right back into next off season. So it's been really fun.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you guys have been killing it. I've been checking stuff out here and there, and every time I go on there, it seems like you got more and more views. So you guys have definitely been doing a great job. So I can't recommend that enough. So make sure you're giving Addison a follow at AmazeHayes_ on Twitter and check out all that DLF content here on the War Zone, man. We're kicking off. This is going to be a busy season for us in 2021. So if you're not already subscribed on YouTube, make sure you do that. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go check out the Dynasty Warzone YouTube, subscribe to that, because we're going to have some YouTube only content there. Memphis will be dropping a lot of, wager related things. So if you're into that, that's going to be, instant. So that way it helps you out. You're not listening to stuff that's a little bit stale. We're going to bring you a ton of content pretty much every day over at the Dynasty Warzone Network, but I'll be dropping my waiver wire sniping in video form this year, not in articles. So that'll drop Saturday mornings. So you can grab those players just in advance of the weekly action and hopefully steal some guys before they end up in everyone's waiver column the next week. So looking forward to doing that. But enough of all that. Let's just dive right into this, man. We're going to roll through all of our predictions here for divisions and wild cards from each conference, and we'll give our Super Bowl picks, and we have just some random categories that literally I was just trying to find what kind of stats I could find on the internet, and that way I can figure out who the winner is here. So we'll definitely revisit these, I'm sure. But let's start with the AFC, man. So we'll just roll through. Give me your 4 division winners and your 3 wild card teams from the AFC, man. Who you got, Addison?
All right. So do you want me to just to give you 1 through 6, or do I have to rank 1 through 6?
Nope. Just you can just roll through all divisions and then give whatever wild card teams also made the wild cards for you.
Okay, cool. I guess it's 1 through 7 now, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? It still throws me off that they threw that extra team in there, but it worked out last year pretty well. So I guess we won't we won't be too mad about more football, right?
Right, exactly. So, easy one, Kansas City Chiefs. That's easy. Buffalo Bills, I feel like, was the other easy one as well. The AFC South, I do feel is kind of easy. I think that division's a little weak overall. That's the Tennessee Titans for me. Even with the loss of Arthur Smith and stuff, I still think that team is very good, especially in that division. And then the AFC North is the hardest one for me. Even as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, it's really difficult because I don't think we repeat. We have a really tough schedule this year. Obviously, Vegas doesn't like us to repeat either. So my choices were Baltimore or Cleveland. And I went with Cleveland. I think Pat McAfee also did as well. He has Cleveland in his division winners 7-leg parlay or something like that. And the difference to me was they seem like a team that has more overall balance in offensively, defensively. I think they can beat Baltimore both on the road and at home as well for any tiebreakers. And their schedule is a little bit easier because they came in 3rd place last year in the division. So their schedule's just a little bit easier, because the Steelers are playing the Green Bay Packers and then the Browns are playing whoever was 3rd in the NFC North last year. So this just a little bit of tiny differences there. So I went with the Cleveland Browns as my AFC North team. The 3 wild card teams, I did then have the Baltimore Ravens as probably the easiest one. It was if you pick the Ravens, I think the Browns are the next easiest wild card team. Mm-hmm. Then the one after that was the Miami Dolphins. I feel like they're a pretty solid 2nd place team in the AFC East. I think that they still beat out the New England Patriots, and they just missed the playoffs last year. And then the 7th one after that, I'm going to give it to the LA Chargers.
Oh, I think all right.
Their defense stays healthy. I think that their offense, obviously Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, I think that they do just enough that they can, get there and squeak in as the number 7 team in the AFC.
All right. I like the Chargers call. I've been looking forward to, seeing these videos they've been putting up about Derwin James. This is a guy that's a player that, it's definitely one of those guys. Like, it feels like, I don't know if you remember, because you're a little younger than me, but Bob Sanders on the Colts, he was a safety that was like such a freak, man. He was so good, but he was injured all the time. Like, he never played.
Yeah.
So when he was healthy, man, that's why I kind of feel like with Derwin, like we haven't really got to see him because it seems like he's always getting hurt. But I think that team's going to be a surprise for a lot of people. I don't have him in, but I like that call as that 7th team. So you and I are on the same page for a lot of these. I think, a few of them are super simple. The West and the East, I'm with you. It's Kansas City, Buffalo. That one's pretty simple. The South, I love the Titans as well. I think Indy's going to be interesting. They got their, they had a good season last year with Phil. They need Wentz to stay healthy. But I'm just a little bit nervous them getting off to a slow start because Wentz hasn't even had a snap yet, Right. And I know, the Tennessee Titans haven't been 100% healthy, waiting on Julio, but he's a vet, I think he'll get it done. So I went the Titans in the South. The North, I took kind of the easy route here. I gave it to your Steelers as the division winner. I think Tomlin is just such a good freaking coach. Like, I just have a tough time going against teams that have head coaches that are so good. I know Harbaugh's good too, but I just think that Steelers defense is still going to be solid. The offensive line I know is a little bit of a concern with so many new starters this year, but I just feel like they'll be able to get it done and win that division. But I put Baltimore and Cleveland as my wild card teams. So all right. I got I got 3 guys from the North. I mean, they're all starting 2-0 pretty much. I don't know that Cincinnati beats any of them. So there you go. We'll see how much they eat into each other there, but I think they can all make it. And then my last wild card team was Miami Dolphins. So you and I are on the same page there as well. We think 2 teams from the East are getting in. Buffalo's going to take that division in Miami. I think that's a team that, again, they've kind of done it the right way. They've really built that team out really well on the defensive side of the ball. That's obviously, they got a head coach that knows what he's doing on the defensive side. The offense, then they've loaded up. They've given to it some serious weaponry, and I love that. I love watching teams that surround their young quarterbacks with some big time weapons. I'm looking forward to see what Waddle and even Will Fuller. I know he's not paired with Deshaun anymore, but that's still big for Tua to have those guys be brought in. So I think Miami can sneak in this year. So you have the Chargers in, I have the Steelers in as a division winner. So I think that's our two differences right there. But that's good stuff, man. So we'll see how close we get on those calls because we're going the same direction. So let's move over to the NFC. Why don't you give me the division winners and your wild cards there?
All righty. NFC over here, I'm going to give it to the Green Bay Packers again. I think they just kind of run it back with Aaron Rodgers, and obviously he has all of the motivation in the world as his final year with him and Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, because he's gone for sure. So run it back one more time. Green Bay Packers. And then in the NFC South, run it back again. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't think that was all too difficult there either. NFC East, I'm going to repay the favor that you paid with me. I'm giving it to your Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And hopefully, I think it's the offense. I'm not confident in your defense, but I think that offense, you're going to win a lot of shootout games, in my opinion, or at least enough to be the division winner in that division. And kind of like how the AFC South is, it's not super strong all the way around. So the winner of that doesn't need to be 13-3 or 12-4 or something like that. And then finally the NFC West, this one was the hardest. And I feel like this was the hardest for us last year as well.
Yeah.
And I was very tempted to go with the Niners kind of for the same reason as I picked the Cleveland Browns, because they weren't that good last year. So their schedule is a lot easier, but I feel like their team overall, they got healthy. They got better with getting Trey Lance. But I didn't go with them, and I did not go with the Seattle Seahawks. I went with the LA Rams.
Oh, all right.
With Matthew Stafford there. I think McVay with Stafford and not, kind of like training wheeling a quarterback around can kind of unlock that offense. Even with the loss of Cam Akers, that defense is obviously great. Matthew Stafford is great if he can stay healthy. And then he has all the receivers and the weapons that he can throw to there that he really hasn't had in Detroit in a long time. So I like the LA Rams there to win the NFC West. And then obviously I have the Seattle Seahawks as my other or my first wild card team. And then I have I doubled up again here. Well, I guess you doubled up, but I doubled up here with the San Francisco 49ers as the other one, because I was tempted to put them as a winner, but I think they make the wild card. And then my final NFC wild card team, this one was hard because I feel like there's a lot of teams that could really vie for this number 7 spot. Not so much like the AFC, but there's a lot in here, like the Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, do the Washington football team, they sneak in there with that really good defense. It's just kind of what the offense is. This was really, really tough for me, but I did decide to go with the Chicago Bears in the hope that Justin Fields starts sooner rather than later. And he kind of helps carry the Chicago Bears offense while that defense is still great and holding a lot of offenses kind of back. And I think if Justin Fields plays 13 or more games, I think they can get to the number 7 spot in the wild card.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, obviously living in the Chicago area, there's a lot of excitement about Justin Fields. We're going to see Dalton start week 1, just about 6 days from recording this. And this was a playoff team with Mr. Trubisky last year, so I feel like even Dalton being out there should give this team a little bit of a boost. But I think Fields being under center really could put this team over the top and give them a playoff push. So got a few differences here between your picks and mine. I got Green Bay and Tampa. I think those ones are pretty secure. Those were the two most obvious ones for me for the same reasons that you mentioned. For the East, I don't care if Dallas doesn't even have any players. I will pick them every year. It doesn't matter. It's completely biased as hell. I'm hoping your boy Micah Parsons shows up big time for our defense because we need him. So just be marginally better, just a little bit, and I think we should be okay in that division. So I went with the Dallas Cowboys in the East. I mean, come on. The West, yeah, I agree with you. This one was the toughest one. I went back and forth on this one a lot, but I went with Seattle. I just think that they'll be able to get it done there, but I definitely took the easy way out. I put the Rams as a wild card team. That's going to be one of the most interesting situations to watch for me in 2021. Seeing Sean McVay, everyone, probably rightfully so, but everyone's crapped on Jared Goff for the last 2 years. And now the Rams did everything possible to right that situation, right? They got rid of Jared Goff. They ate a ton of money. No one thought it was possible. They somehow got it done. Matthew Stafford's in town. It's all set up. I know losing Cam Akers stinks, but I mean, this is going to be very, very interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to that Rams offense this year. I think they make the playoffs. There were a lot of teams that were in the mix, even for these last two spots for me. I like San Fran. I hope they bounce back. I know that they dealt with a ton of injuries. It was crazy. Like every time you looked, it just seemed like someone else was going down for them. So I do think if they
again too.
Yeah, I did, dude. It's so crazy. And the quarterback situation there, I do think that if Lance can get a shot early on, I think he's going to be really, really fun to watch, especially for fantasy. But I left the Niners out. My last two playoff spots, I actually gave it to New Orleans. LASIK Jameis, let's go. I think that Saints defense is still really good, and that division is pretty poor too. I don't have any faith in the Atlanta Falcons to improve very much, even with new head coach. And as much as I think Carolina's moving in the right direction, I still think there are a lot of pieces away. So I went with the Saints, and then I gave the last wild card spot. I just went with a team that I thought was the best defense that wasn't already in. So I gave that to Washington. They don't even have a name, but they will get a playoff berth this year. That defense is scary, man. I think that's the one thing in that NFC East that really frightens me as a Cowboys fan, is just having to face that defense twice a year, see what they're going to be doing week in and week out. So many first rounders. Chase Young is just a freaking monster. Really still wish he wasn't there, but he is. And so, yeah, I gave that to Washington. So a few differences there. I think that the NFC, I think, is just going to be a little bit more interesting, because I think the AFC is kind of like you got your 7-8 teams. But in the NFC, I think even the last two playoff spots could be up for grabs between a handful of teams this year. And there's always a surprise team. It feels like the way this this league is, with all the parity and the way the schedule is made up is perfect for that. So lends itself to some surprise teams every year. So as confident as we are in these picks, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch that are wrong. But let's move on. Who you got? Who's your Super Bowl matchup? So the conference champs, and then who's your Super Bowl pick for 2021 here in early September?
All right. So my Super Bowl matchup, I have the Green Bay Packers going. I think that Aaron Rodgers is motivated. I think that he's going to get it done over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I have the Green Bay Packers. That might be a homer pick now that I live in Wisconsin, but the Green Bay Packers coming out of the NFC. And the AFC, it's so easy to pick the Kansas City Chiefs. Like it's ridiculous how easy it is to pick them. But even, New England missed the Super Bowl, every so often, I guess it seemed with Tom Brady and stuff. And as I'm predicting for him not to make it this year. So I don't think last year was a fluke for Josh Allen. I think that he actually takes it one step further. And I think that they're going to make the Super Bowl out of the AFC. So I have the Green Bay Packers versus the Buffalo Bills. And I have the Green Bay Packers winning the Super Bowl here. It's all the motivation for Aaron Rodgers. He can kind of go out on top, maybe plant his flag as not only one of the greatest Packers players of all time, or maybe the greatest Packer player of all time, but then also, solidify one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time as well too in this offense. And then moves on and goes somewhere else next year.
Yeah. That's and you and I are almost in lockstep again. I have the Packers coming out. I just think Rodgers is, like you said, he's going to be out here again, trying to just, tear people up and prove, how good a quarterback he really is. And that, he's the reason that team's, is where they are currently. And I have Green Bay coming out of the NFC. I have Kansas City. It's colored by numbers, like you said. I just think, Mahomes, it's hard to go against Mahomes. Yeah. I think that there are some really good teams in the AFC that could make him earn it for sure. But I still went with Kansas City, but I went with Green Bay as well as Super Bowl champs. So there's no way in hell that they're going to win now. If Addison and I are both taking them, forget it.
No, they're going to be a wild card team and lose first round. That's
no doubt. So we will. That story kind of writes itself, and I'm here for every moment of that 2022 offseason when it's like, oh, is he really going to leave? Or are they not going to figure this out? How are you not going to come back? But yeah, I can already see the Adam Schefter tweet.
Aaron Rodgers is the first quarterback in NFL history to win a Super Bowl and then leave and then be traded away. Yeah. Win a Super Bowl, win Super Bowl MVP, and then the team trades him away, stuff like that. I can already see that tweet being written out in like March,
Yeah, agreed. And that's and they'll love it. ESPN will not shy away from that at all. It will just live and breathe it until that's figured out. So,
and if the NFL is rigged, this is the perfect story. Just like how Brady wins the Super Bowl in his first year, away from New England.
Yeah.
If the NFL is rigged, there's no better storyline that's going to sell tickets and get views and stuff on TV than the Green Bay Packers winning it with Aaron Rodgers tearing the NFL in half.
Yeah.
In his final year after this offseason. So
yeah, no doubt. Exactly. So we'll see. This will be the true litmus test, I think. Last year was already just nuts as it was. Can still not believe that Brady did that. And of course was the first time that the team hosting the Super Bowl. I mean, what's the odds,
Right.
All right. So I'm trying to count these on the fly. 15 random just categories. Some of this stuff is definitely relevant to, for fantasy owners. Some of these are just crazy, just throw a dart and see what happens type categories. So, but I was able to find a few places to find these stats. So I was like, why not? We'll just throw this in here and have some fun with it. So you ready for this, man?
I'm ready, dude.
All right. So first one, nice and easy. We'll just put it on the tee. We'll take care of this. First one, QB leader in passing yards in 2021. We have the expanded season, so these numbers are going to be higher than anything we've ever seen. It's going to be crazy. You got some people out there saying people can throw for 6,000 yards now with the extra game. But regardless of that, we're just looking for the leader in passing yards in 2021. Addison, I'll let you lead it off here.
All right. Well, I'm going with your boy. I'm going with Dak Prescott. Again, because I think that defense is not good. And he was already on pace last year for like 7,000 passing yards in his first 5 games and whatnot. I mean, I'm not saying that he does that, but I think he can easily eclipse 5,000 and support 2 1,200-yard receivers, maybe another 1,000-yard receiver. And then between Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, maybe they get 1,000. And then it's just, there's going to be so many passing yards and so many fantasy points in this offense that I've been scooping up in best balls. And Dak Prescott, I think, is going to be absolutely insane with his passing ability, but just like last year. And I think that he can just do it all again this year and lead the league in passing yards.
Yeah, I don't want to remain too lockstep with you, but that was my pick as well. As homer as it was, this defense is going to be bad. I mean, it might not be as bad as last year, hopefully. Fingers crossed, but I'm not banking on it. This is a team that's going to have to, put up 35 plus points a game to feel safe.
Yeah.
So they're going to be chucking the ball all over the place. I was glad to see that, Dak had the injury scare early on, like really early on in training camp, but was taken off pitch count. He should be good to go. I would have loved to see him play, even just a series and get out there. But regardless, man, this is a team that's going to have to throw the ball a lot. He might not come out as hot against that Tampa Bay defense, but I think you're going to be looking at a ton of 300-yard games for Dak Prescott because this offense is going to be just having to play catch up a lot, and maintain to keep up with what that defense is going to give up. So I'm going with Prescott as my passing leaders too. So we're matched up already 1-for-1 here. Let's move on. We'll stick with the quarterbacks. I'd exclude some names here. So I wanted to know the quarterback that would have the most rushing touchdowns, but I took out Kyler, Lamar, and Josh Allen. So who is the quarterback that's going to have the most rushing touchdowns, not named Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, or Josh Allen?
Yeah, this one was hard for me because if you would have asked me, what was it, last week, I probably would have said Cam Newton because he led the quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns last year, actually, even with the threat of Mac Jones. Which, now that I look back on it, that probably wouldn't still not have been a good call because Mac Jones is probably going to get the start in like week 3.
Yeah.
If Cam Newton was still on the team. So this one was harder for me. And especially with obviously the 3, those 3 quarterbacks off the board.
Yep.
And I was really tempted to do Dak Prescott in this as well, because prior to last year, he was like 6 every single year, it seemed as well. And but I didn't want to double down with Dak and leading the league in passing yards and most rushing quarterback touchdowns, where I guess 4th in the NFL after those 3. So I'm doubling down on my faith in Justin Fields again, that he starts in early enough that he can play enough games to get to this. But again, if I'm thinking that he plays 13 or more games, and I'm hoping he plays 16 because I hope that they're just sacrificing Andy Dalton to the Rams defense and Aaron Donald, and then he plays week 2 against the Bengals. And so I hope that that's what is going on with the Chicago Bears. And if that happens, I think Justin Fields has the ability to be fantastic and score rushing touchdowns. And we already kind of saw that rushing ability in the preseason that went along with, one of the biggest reasons why we liked him coming out of Ohio State as well. So I'm going with the rookie Justin Fields.
I like that call a lot. I wish I would have ended up with this pair. I've been telling people, to take Fields a lot. A lot of people have, but like knowing too, like you can just pair him with an early streamer. So like my perfect quarterback combination was to get Kirk Cousins and then pair him with Justin Fields. Cousins' schedule in the first 3 weeks is unbelievable. I only managed to do it in 2 leagues. I have Fields in like a handful, but I was able to get Cousins in a few of those. That Viking schedule at Cincy, at Arizona, and in Seattle at home is just unbelievable. So I am hoping that you're right on Justin Fields' call, because I really want this kid to be good, just not only for my Chicago Bears friends, fan friends, because it's been a long time coming for these guys. But I think this kid could be super exciting and great for fantasy. So hopefully there's some early returns there. I like that call a lot. That's probably a much smarter, educated guess than what I'm going with, because I'm just going, as much as I said that Jameis will lead the Saints to the playoffs, I'm going to go with Taysom Hill because Sean Payton's a maniac. So I think he'll just put him out there randomly, and he'll probably get like 6 or 7, and he'll be 4th in the league behind the names we excluded. So I kind of cheated and went that route, because I wasn't very confident in Fields. Maybe I should have. Maybe I didn't put enough weight with there, but I'm going to go with Taysom Hill and see if I fall ass backwards into that one.
Wow. Yeah, I thought you were just going to go with kind of more the chalk pick and like Jalen Hurts, because he was up there for me on my short list as well.
Jalen Hurts sucks, bro.
He's going to have like 4 rushing touchdowns on your Cowboys defense at least.
He will. And dude, Hurts is definitely one of those players this season that I don't know. I just haven't had the balls to take him, I guess, because he's not going like incredibly early. Like he's usually around 10 or 12 quarterback off the board. And I just feel his out, and most of the time in leagues, like if he, craps the bed, you can find a replacement pretty easily in 1 QB leagues. But I feel like his upside and for fantasy is just crazy. And looking back on it, I was like, man, I wish I would have kind of taken my shot, maybe a little bit more there, rather than, kind of just taking some of the guys that maybe don't even have as much upside. Like as much as I love like Matthew Stafford as an example, like I think that Hurts he has way more upside than Stafford, just based purely off the rushing. And so I think I ended up with Hurts in a couple leagues. They're both super flex, so it kind of really killed the idea of like, oh, there's not a lot of risk here, because in super flex it's gonna be hard to find another quarterback if he fails. But that's gonna be one that a lot of fantasy owners are gonna be keeping an eye on, and dynasty owners especially too, because man, some of the startup prices I saw on him, I'm sure you've seen it, was just unbelievable. I'm like, dude, this seems scary. I don't know if I want to take that jump, man. It seems nuts. But I like your pick a lot better than mine here with the quarterback with the most rushing TDs, not named Kyler Lamar or Josh Allen. We got 2 more with the quarterbacks here. We're gonna flip the script. This one's a little bit more negative, but quarterbacks, the quarterback with the most interceptions. Who you got?
I think I picked him last year. I'm going back to it. Sam Darnold. I don't think he's good. I don't think it was Adam Gase. I think it was Sam Darnold. It was Sam Darnold compounded by Adam Gase, but I still think it was still Sam Darnold. I don't think he's good at all. I don't think the Panthers fixed their problem at the quarterback position. And he's just a worse version of Teddy Bridgewater and not as safe with the ball than Teddy Bridgewater. So, and I do think that they're going to have to throw a lot, obviously, because they're not a good team. And I mean, maybe he saves himself because he's going to throw the ball 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage 120 times to Christian McCaffrey. So then those opportunities, I guess, aren't really there for a lot of interceptions on the other, 400 passes that he's going to throw to all the other wide receivers. But I don't have any faith in Sam Darnold. I have him for most interceptions.
All right. Well, we'll see if he rolls it back. We've seen him have high interception totals in the past. And I think we're going to know pretty damn quick whether Darnold can even survive this season because he was another guy that I like used as a streamer in some leagues. Like if quarterbacks were just flying off the board, I know Darnold was going super late. He has the Jets the first week, then the Saints, who do have a decent defense, but then at Houston, at Dallas, weeks 3 and 4. I mean, so you got the Jets, the Texans, and the Cowboys through the first 4 weeks. If he's not producing coming out of September, then it's going to be a long season. Long season for the Panthers. So I went quarterback with the most interceptions. I went with Trevor Lawrence. I think that he's just a guy that's going to throw the ball a ton. I think he's going to be among the league leaders in pass attempts just because that team is also very bad. So I think he'll have a successful rookie season as far as, some of the other numbers, yardage and touchdowns, but we've seen it before. Like these guys come in and they just throw a lot of picks out of the gate and just adapt into the NFL game. I think that'll be the same case here with Trevor Lawrence. So he's somebody that obviously dynasty owners are really counting on. This guy was the 101 in Superflex. They've been talking about this kid for years. We finally get to see him. He's on Jacksonville. But I think it's just going to be the fact he's going to have to throw so much that he's just going to kind of fall into the league leaders in interceptions. So I'll put him at the top and we'll roll with that. So do you know who's younger? Is it Lawrence or Sam Darnold? I thought Sam Darnold's like 21 for the last 6 years.
I think Darnold is older, but it's not by much.
We finally found somebody that was younger than Sam Darnold. My God, people have been talking about that dude's age forever. It's so funny. Yeah. All right, this one was completely freaking random. I found this stat on Pro Football Reference. Pro Football Reference they have like an advanced stats section.
Is it by team though? Because that's what I found.
You what?
Is it by team? I found it by team.
No, I found it by player. So last year, Kyler Murray led the league in this category, which was the quarterback with the most spikes, which is just so stupid. And I couldn't really tell if there's any rhyme or reason to this as far as how they like total up. Because with Kyler, I was like, he was a team that was in some games, but playing from behind a lot. And, so maybe that's it. But then I kind of looked at some other teams I thought were similar to that. And those quarterbacks did not have the same, even close. They have like one. So, so this seems a little bit random, but what the hell? We'll just throw it in here. So I'll let you go first. Who quarterback with the most spikes? Why not?
I'm going to go. Yeah. Cause I was kind of thinking, I was like, if I had to predict who's going to be in a lot of close games and playing from behind a little bit, at the fourth quarter, or maybe in the second half or the end of the first half in the second quarter, I was completely throwing it out there, and I did find it by teams, and so Kyler Murray, that does fit with mine too. So that's good there. But I'm going with Justin Herbert. Okay. I think, first of all, based on my research, Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers were like top 8 last year.
Oh, there you go.
But I do think that they're going to be playing it in a lot of close games. They already do. Like it was like that stat where you saw last year. It was if every one score game was flipped. How would teams actually be? And the Seattle Seahawks, like their record went from 13-3 to 3-13, and the Chargers were the exact opposite. They went from 3-13 to like 13-3. Like that's how many close games that they played and how much they lost in just 3 to 7 points and stuff like that. And so I do think that the Chargers are going to be in a lot of shootout games. They're probably going to be playing from behind a little bit, even though I still have faith in that defense. I do think that they get a lot of it done, obviously, because I had them as my number 7 team in the playoffs. But I guess that's my rationale for picking Justin Herbert and predicting quarterback with the most spikes.
Hey, I appreciate you bringing that hard hitting analysis. This is a team that like for years, and I don't know if it was always because like we always got force fed having to watch the Chargers in the late afternoon games, being on the West Coast. But like, it just seemed like for the last dozen years, every game when Phillip Rivers was there was like, came down to the last possession all the time. And he was always like trying to chase to get back in it. And then last year, like you said, so many 1-score games still, even with Herbert there, it's going to be interesting. But this is random as hell. We'll see how this plays out. I went with Daniel Jones because I'm hoping that the NFL stats people will count some of his just horrific completion attempts as spikes.
I was gonna say, I was like, they're gonna be losing a lot of games, but they're gonna be losing them by like 35 in the fourth quarter. So I don't know about those spikes.
Yeah, we will see. I definitely went. I had to go with it. My only criteria was like a quarterback that's not going to be ahead probably like ever. So I went with Daniel Jones, and we'll just see. That was the basis of my analysis. So there you go, man. I appreciate you playing along with that one. We're going to kick it over to the running back position. This one might be a little bit more helpful for people. I nailed this one last year, by the way. I had the win in this category. We'll see if I can get it again. Running back who will lead the position in total touchdowns. So last year, I guessed Kamara. I lucked out because he had all those receiving touchdowns. So I still wear that gold star.
On Christmas Day helps a lot.
Yes, exactly. So that one pulled me ahead. But so who you had? Who's your running back that will lead the position in total touchdowns this year?
Give me the chalk. I'll go Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, then why not?
Yeah, he's their offense. He's their engine. His total touchdowns, right? So
yep.
If he gets 8 each, that's 16. I feel like I'm pretty confident when you get up into the high teens and stuff like that somebody's going to do it. And I feel like Christian McCaffrey has a fantastic shot of doing that.
I like the call. Obviously, the 1.01 in fantasy redrafts this year for sure. Hoping to look for a bounce back year from him. I went with Aaron Jones. He's a guy that we've seen big touchdown numbers out of him. I think that Rodgers, while he'll have a great year, I think his passing touchdowns will come down as far as like efficiency just a bit, and it'll give Aaron Jones a few more looks. Jones had, I believe, 16 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago in 2019, and then last year Rodgers was just ridiculous as far as how many touchdowns he threw. I believe he had 48, and compared to his pass attempts, I just think that'll come down just a bit. And Jones is somebody too that whenever you think total touchdowns, you got to have at least 2 or 3 receiving touchdowns, and Jones is involved in the receiving game. I'm hoping maybe even a little bit more than years past. So we'll see how much Dylan eats in to Jones's rushing production, but I still think this guy's an absolute monster. And there's no reason they shouldn't continue just to feed him pretty heavily. So I went with Aaron Jones just to not take Derrick Henry or Cook or McCaffrey. I was like, we'll just see. Let's throw one out there. But I like your call as well. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Speaking of CMC, this was a category throughout last year, and we unfortunately were robbed of the opportunity to see this one play all the way out. So the category it's an either or. So are you taking Christian McCaffrey's reception total or Derrick Henry's reception total times 4? So Derrick Henry, it's a 4 times multiplier on his receptions versus Christian McCaffrey. And believe it or not, this has been fairly close in the past, because I think even this last year, Henry had a career high in receptions, and he had 19.
Yeah.
So times 4 multiplier, though, for Derrick Henry. Which way you leaning, bro?
I think I did it last year too. I'll do it again. I'm going with Christian McCaffrey because, like you said, like 19, 20. If Derrick Henry has a career high 20 receiving or 20 receptions, multiply that by 4, it's 80. I don't think that's a super high number for Christian McCaffrey to eclipse, especially in 17 games. I don't know if Henry's going to play 17. I don't know if McCaffrey's going to play 17. But it's a possibility that McCaffrey has like 100. So.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm going with you as well. I'm going with the CMC receptions. As much as crazy it is to think about, like, okay, every one counts as 4. The dude just doesn't catch passes, which is so crazy because it always seems like every year he's good for like 2 or 3 of these like little dump ups in the flat, and then he just like does what he does on every other rushing play. Just takes it to the house. Like, you're telling me you can't get this guy 25 receptions ever? Like, I don't. Dude. And they don't use anybody else, so it's just kind of weird,
It's so frustrating because I see them like they'll line up in shotgun. And I remember this one play like so vividly from last year. They were like in the red zone, but like at the 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. And they lined up in shotgun, Derrick Henry on the right of Tannehill. And when they snapped the ball, all Henry did was just kind of like run 5 to 7 yards like horizontally. And Tannehill just kind of threw it over to him. And he was able to catch the ball and with open space, just like shoot, like he's so fast, he's so big, and with a full head of steam, with that much open space against cornerbacks that are like at best 190 pounds. Yeah. Like I don't know why they don't do that more. Like it's so frustrating. I think he got 15 or 16 yards on that. They were on like the 3 or 4 yard line, and then they just handed him the ball again on like a counter play or something on the next play, and he scored. And I'm like, he needs to get like 2 or 3 of those like a game. Yeah. Like it's just another rush attempt basically for him, but like you're actively getting him outside the hashes against cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So like why, and he's good enough to where he can, get around linebackers if they're pulling linebackers in coverage for him if is running a route. So I don't know why they just don't do that 2 or 3 times a game.
Yeah, I don't either, because it seems like it's not like some of these guys where they try to get him involved in the passing game and they just constantly like drop, so like just can't you can't figure it out. It's just not part of their game, and it's not that way with Henry. I feel like anytime they give him the opportunity, he's solid with it. And like you said, that full head of steam, that's what they want to get him a lot of times on rushes. That's exactly what you're doing by getting him outside. Why not? Let's see it. So
yeah.
Well, we're going to stick with Derrick Henry. This one was a kind of a crazy ass one as well. So hopefully you're following me with this one. All right, here's what we're doing. We're going to do some math, which is good because you said you went to school for math. So hopefully this didn't confuse you. We're going to do this is an either or. So we're going to do Derrick Henry rush attempts plus his receiving yards. So that's one. It's Derrick Henry's rush attempts plus receiving yards, or the rushing yards for the leading running back on the Texans. So it can be any Texans running back, whatever their rush yards is, or do you think they're going to have more yards than Derrick Henry will have attempts plus receiving yards? Because, again, we saw Derrick Henry on 19 receptions. That's not a lot of receiving yards, but the dude gets like 370 attempts. So who you got in this category?
Yeah, I was trying to math this one out. I was like, because I felt like comfortable giving Derrick Henry 350 rush attempts. Then I was like, where's he at in receiving yards? He had 200 2 years ago, 114 last year. So I was like, all right, we'll give him 150. So that 350 and 150 would put him at 500, which I feel like is a really solid over under for any of those Houston Texans running backs. But I am going to go with one of the running backs for the Houston Texans. It's my hope that Philip Lindsay takes kind of the role, because I think he is the best one there. And they don't do like a full-on 3-headed committee, and one of them ends up being a little bit better or maybe a little bit more efficient. And if they get, I don't know, 120 rush attempts or something like that, it's just, if Philip Lindsay gets 120, I think he can get to 500 personally. So I'll go with that. And then that's also the injury thing here too. I could get like a free point if Derrick Henry misses significant time or something like that, because I feel like at that point, whoever, even if the leading rushing for the Texans is 300, if Derrick Henry misses 5 or 6 games, I feel pretty confident in that. So
gotcha. All right, I like your logic. That's good. I'm with you too. I hope it's Philip Lindsay. Fingers crossed. I thought that Mark Ingram would be collecting unemployment checks by this time of year, and unfortunately, he is not. And hell, I was like, all right, let's go. Let's get Ingram back to Baltimore. Let's roll it back. Nope, that didn't work either. He's still there. They got a lot of running backs in Houston, and I'm hoping that it's Philip Lindsay. I think he would be the most exciting for fantasy owners. And that's coming from the guy that is still rostering the corpse of David Johnson on a few dynasty teams, just looking at that, wanting to vomit. Yeah, I went with Derrick Henry on this one. Why not? Let's just see what happens. Could the dude get 400 rush attempts so he plays every game? Maybe, because they were giving him the ball so much last season. I think this is more just a negative against the Texans than anything else. But yeah, let's put Derrick Henry at 500 with attempts plus rush yards, and I will just say that the Texans won't be able to find a running back to match that. So that's kind of crazy, but I'll go that route. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right. A few more running back ones here. Running back with the longest rush. I believe this was this Derrick? Oh, no, it was Ronald Jones last year, I think, had the longest rush.
98 or 99.
Yeah, and Derrick Henry, I think, was second, or definitely in the top 5. So, like, it's not always like the super fast guys you think about. Sometimes it's those guys just get rolling, could break some tackles. But who you got as your guess for the running back with the longest rush this season?
I wanted to keep the Derrick Henry love going because, like you said, it seems like he has one like 90+ yard touchdown every year. But I'm going to go with a speedster, but another guy who I think could have a pretty solid workload, assuming that he stays healthy for any portion of the season. I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I think that he's going to hold Trey Sermon back a little bit. I think he gets first dibs. As long as he doesn't get hurt, I think that backfield is his, especially with Trey Sermon also being hurt right now too. So they've been really saving Raheem Mostert all preseason. They haven't given him like any work because they know how fragile he is. And so they wanted to save him because he is their guy, in my opinion. and he has like 4.35 speed. So I think that if he just gets a couple opportunities, on like his own 5 or 10 yard line, one of those could potentially be broken and he could get that, hopefully.
I like that call. That dude is fast. And he's going to be somebody that I think he's one of those guys that like in redraft leagues, I'm like, dude, that's potential league winner, like where people are getting him right now. He's just going so late. And I get it. Like Sermon, was drafted, fairly high for running back. And, he played for Ohio State. So he gets a lot of pub and all that. But like, if I'm the 49ers, like Mostert's been great when he's on the field. Why not? And they can just pretty much run him, and not have any consequences really versus, Sermon. They can kind of just get him involved this year a little bit here and there and see how it plays out. You never know. But the way where Mostert's going right now or was going in August is crazy. So I like that call a lot. I went with another guy that a little bit similar, just a guy that I think has good speed, but also will get a decent amount of work where maybe he can bust off a long one. This one's random, but I went with Myles Gaskin. I think he is going to be the leader in that Dolphins backfield. And we'll see. I just think he showed last year that he can handle it if they give them the opportunity. And so I'll hope that he gets 200 rush attempts and maybe he can be there. Who knows?
Myles Gaskin's my boy, dude.
There we go.
200 attempts and 50, 60 receptions. I'm here for it.
Yeah, dude. I'm hoping, man. I got him as my running back 2 in a few spots. And he was going. I've seen him even going into like round 5, and I was just like, I don't know why not. I know that first preseason game was hilarious because
he dropped
everyone just
round 7 and after that, literally
dude,
right after that game,
freaked out, right? Yeah. I got him in a draft. It was a startup that was because it was early August, so it was like I think it was the last startup I did this year. And he was just sitting there and falling. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take him. Like, I don't know, like what's the worst that could happen? And the guys were going ahead of him were just crazy. So, all right, you and I, we'll be rooting for Myles Gaskin this year. Last running back one, I threw this on here just because I love points per first down. I love it. Mm-hmm. It should be it like every league that I play in that I commish, I push for that to be a part of the scoring in some way. Even half point is great. It's just something about knowing that when they get that first, that's a big play in the NFL game, and that should be reflective in fantasy, in my opinion. So I love points for first down. So I was looking at the stats on that. It was almost hilarious. Like anytime you look at running back stats, Derrick Henry is always just so much higher than everyone else. It's ridiculous. But so we'll take a prediction here at the running back position. Who will be the top 3 running backs in rushing first downs in 2021? One of them might be easy, so I just went with the top 3 here. So who you got, Addison?
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of a volume stat.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a bet on who's going to get the most opportunities rushing the ball in total rush attempts. So Derrick Henry obviously is one of them. I have Ezekiel Elliott as another one, and then Dalvin Cook, because I feel like those 3 guys are pretty good bets for 300 rush attempts or more. So with that kind of volume, first down should come.
I like that call a lot. Those guys are definitely at the top of the list. I'm hoping for fantasy owners out there that drafted Dalvin Cook or have Dalvin Cook that he continues to see that volume that we saw last year, and we should be seeing huge numbers from him. I went with Derrick Henry as well. Obviously, that was the easy. That was the free space. Took it. I went with Zeke. Again, this is a volume play. The dude never is hurt. Now, hopefully, the offensive line will be full go for the whole season. That'll help him out a lot. I think he's in for a big year. And then I went Jonathan Taylor. I just think he's going to be a dude that sees a ton of volume as well. I kind of think that Cook might come down just a little. That's just my guess. I get compared to what we've seen in the past from him. But I think regardless, I think JT should be right there with him as far as high volume and rushing first downs. He should be in the top 5, I would guess. So I go with Henry, Zeke, and Jonathan Taylor. Let's shift to wide receivers. We got a few more here, and we're doing pretty good on time. So I appreciate you, Addison. Let's move into this one. Was fun last year, so I wanted to roll it back. The wide receiver duo with the most fantasy points, and I think this was even tougher for me this year because I feel like there are so many trios in the fantasy world this year. Like last year, it was kind of like maybe one or two. But then when you look at, obviously Dallas, but now Pittsburgh seems like a trio. You got Cincinnati's a trio now. It's just crazy how many of these teams have, more than 2 wide receivers that fantasy owners are going to be counting on. But we're talking duo. So the 2 wide receivers on the same team that will combine for the most fantasy points. What you got, man?
I wanted to pick your Cowboys. I wanted to
as well. I really did.
Oh, so I'm wondering if you picked the same one as me. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to go with Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Irv Smith, that injury changed it for me a lot.
Yeah.
Just because now, like, there's no way Adam Thielen doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't have double-digit touchdowns, just like he did last year.
Yeah.
And Irv Smith was a big reason why I didn't think he would, because I thought Irv was going to steal some of that red zone work away from Adam Thielen. Even with how good Adam Thielen is inside the red zone, he just finds a way to get open. So honestly, if you told me at the end of the year that Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen were both wide receiver 1s, with Jefferson maybe borderline top 5 or inside the top 5, and Adam Thielen as wide receiver 10, 11, 12, because of a lot of those touchdowns, I would definitely believe you. So I'm going to go with those 2. And the second place team for me was your Dallas Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb and Amari, because I feel like that's the other team that I feel pretty confident in, that there's going to be 2 wide receiver 1s. Like, if any teams were to do it, I would feel like it's Minnesota and Dallas. But I'm curious to know who your team is if it's neither one of those 2.
Yeah, man. And the Irv Smith thing, dude, that hurt so bad. Like, when he went down, I looked, because he was a guy I was really high on this year, and I was surprised. Like, I figured he'd be a top 12 and like in ADP, and for redraft he wasn't. Like, he was there around 15. I was like, perfect. And I think I had him on like 4 teams, and they were all tight end premium. And I'm like, this just freaking sucks. And I've been dogging Adam Thielen for years, just waiting for it to come true, and then he continues to perform. So at this point, I'm just riding that train for fun. But I don't have any Adam Thielen, and I think he is in for a big year. I think that's a great call with Minnesota. I think both those guys can perform. Seattle was another team that was in contention for me. I was trying to figure out like a team that just didn't have a third option really. And they were the leaders last year, despite getting, finishing the season poorly. But I actually went, and Tennessee was close too, because I love AJ Brown this year. But I went with the Rams, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
I think those guys with Stafford, that was the route I went. I really love the Cowboys situation this year, but I just think that I like Gallup enough that I think he can eat into that a little bit. And in LA with the Rams, I just don't see anybody else there. So we will see. This one is a lot of fun to see how it shakes out at the end. I really like your call now. That was a good one. I honestly I didn't think about, but that one should definitely be in consideration. So I'll go with the Rams with Woods and Kupp, and you got the Vikings, but those are both great. So we'll see how this one shakes out. All right. Obviously, you're a big dynasty guy, so I want to get a rookie question in here, and we'll just we're sticking with the wide receivers. So just for 2021, which rookie wide receiver will lead the position in fantasy points?
So I had a question for you.
Yes.
Can I choose Kyle Pitts?
You can if you want. We'll allow it. I'll allow it.
I want Kyle Pitts. And because I legitimately, I've said ever since the Julio Jones trade that I legitimately feel like Kyle Pitts could be the best rookie pass catcher from this class, lead the rookies in targets, receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, fantasy points, all of it. I feel like he has a fantastic opportunity to do that. And then I feel like that only was propelled by his 127-yard reception in the preseason and the, I guess, struggles of Jamar Chase throughout the preseason and stuff. Even though I think that that's just a lot of rust being shaken off because he hasn't played football in 2 years at a legit competitive level. So yeah, if you're okay with it, I want to choose Kyle Pitts. If not, my backup was Elijah Moore.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Now you picked the Cowboys to win the division. You're propping up with Elijah Moore here. You're on my good side here, bro, because I love Elijah Moore this year. I didn't choose him for this because but I love it. I love the call. Pitts will be your pick of record, but I like the call on Moore. What was just I'll give you a second just to talk about him a bit.
About Pitts?
About Moore.
Oh, Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just when you have the blend of talent and opportunity that Elijah Moore has, like he was one of my favorite personal rookie wide receivers, even though I didn't really have him as in a top 5. I think he was my wide receiver 6 in rookie rankings. But that was more so because I wasn't sure he was going to get the draft capital. You know, like I was obviously Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman to me, I thought was going to get first round draft capital as well. Like all those guys, I was much more confident in the draft capital. Rondale Moore too. But Elijah Moore was so freaking good in college behind and with, you know, AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. And then he went to the New York Jets, paired him with Zach Wilson, and the upside that Zach Wilson brings to the table is so tremendous. And I think that Elijah Moore has the ability to climb that depth chart so easily, especially with Jamison Crowder. He has COVID, right? I think he's been out. I think
COVID. Yep.
But with Jamison Crowder, you know, not really being there, I know Elijah Moore hasn't really been there either to really solidify that. But I think it's going to be him and Corey Davis. Denzel Mims is gone. He's like N'Keal Harry 2.0.
Yeah.
You know, and just Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole is this is his Olabisi Johnson, right? Like that's like it's so clear that he's gonna pass him on the depth chart by like week 3.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be the Elijah Moore show. And I like he really could be this year's Justin Jefferson because analytically he was really, really good, just like Justin Jefferson was, and was kind of just overshadowed by more elite prospects at the position, like Justin Jefferson was last year with Judy and CeeDee Lamb and the whatever the Henry Ruggs was, which I think is Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
But Elijah Moore, it's just so clear to me that the path is there to be really, really good in year 1, if not, you know, potentially like elite. Like I don't think he's Justin Jefferson elite, like 1,400 yards elite, but CeeDee Lamb and T. Higgins elite for a rookie wide receiver season. I think that's definitely well within the cards. He's been like an auto 10th, 11th round pick for me in best balls and redraft and stuff. I think his ADP's climbed a little bit since then, but yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, do you have anything else to say?
Dude, I think you nailed it. I didn't choose him here as my rookie leader just because I think he might get off just a little bit slower start to the guy that I selected here. I wish I had more of him in redrafts to be like, I think even right out of the gate, you know, he could be the best rookie wide receiver. I just think the situation for him is a lot nicer than maybe we thought it was early on. Cause I was getting him in like you said, around even 9, 10. And then he started creeping up. Like I would have to take him in round like 8 now if I wanted him in some of my most recent drafts just in the last week. And I'm like, damn, okay, people are in on this kid. And I just want, I want him on my squad. So luckily he was like a second rounder in a lot of the rookie drafts I was in. I kept moving. Like if he was sitting there, I moved up to get him. Like I was like, I want this guy on my team. And it made it a little easier for me, I guess, because I wasn't really trying to get Devonta Smith or Bateman. So like most of those guys would go and Moore would be sitting there and I just love him. So and you like Elijah Moore so much, you booted Corey Davis's jersey out of your rotation back there. So that's just true commitment if that doesn't speak for itself.
Yeah. It was more so because it was the Titans Corey Davis. I wish I had, if it was a Jets one, he might still be up there for sure.
There you go. All right.
But yeah.
All good. We're big Corey Davis fans here. Don't worry, people. He grew up like half an hour from me. So yeah, he's a local boy and looking forward to both him and Elijah Moore putting up big numbers for the Jets. I'll make my pick quick here, though. I went with Jalen Waddle. I just think right out of the gate, he can perform. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 there for the Miami Dolphins. I love Chase. I love Elijah Moore. But I think that Waddle is going to perform at a high level, from the beginning. So I'm looking forward to him. He's a guy that was going pretty late in even redraft leagues, 2 or 3 rounds after Devonta Smith, and I was scooping him up there a lot. So I'm really hoping this pays off because I also have a lot of them on my rosters. So nice. I went with Waddle. We got a few more wide receiver ones. We got 2 more. League leader in receiving yards. We're just going to kick it pretty basic here. So among the receivers, who do you think is going to lead the position in receiving yards?
Yep, I got Calvin Ridley for this one. And I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah.
I think like 1,500 yards, I feel like is not out of the range of possibilities here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what he had last year, but it was definitely up there with around there.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, his splits with and without Julio Jones, he averages over 100 yards receiving per game without Julio Jones over the past 2 years, and like 8 or 9 games of a sample size. I don't think he's going to average 100 yards per game. Although I guess if he's scoring or if he's up there in the 1,1600 range, he's going to be pretty darn close.
Yeah.
But he just finds a way to get open. The Falcons are still going to throw. I don't care that Arthur Smith is there and he's coming from the Tennessee Titans. He doesn't have a Derrick Henry on this offense. Matt Ryan obviously loves him. Ridley's just so freaking good, and it's, I'll get Calvin Ridley in receiving yards.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was my pick as well. I think Ridley has a monster year. I wish I had him on more teams. I just didn't have those late first round picks very often for whatever reason in a lot of my redraft leagues, so I didn't have him. But I think he's going to be a monster. So that's a guy that I think he was consensus ADP, like wide receiver 5. I could see him outperforming that. And it's hard to say sometimes about those guys that are so high in ADP, but I just think he is just going to have a monster season. I know Adams and Hill are kind of in a tier of their own, but I think he could be right there with those guys in 2021. I think he's in for a monster year. So on the same page there. All right, last wide receiver one here. This one is a little bit different, but the wide receiver with the highest ADOT, so average depth of target, minimum 25 targets. So I just threw that out there because, we got to get MVS out of the way. So you might get 25 targets. What am I saying? But who'd you go with, man?
Fun fact: do you know who led the league last year?
Last year? I don't remember.
John Hightower.
John, of course. Why not? I would have only needed about 387 guesses to get to John Hightower.
Yeah, and number 2 was Tyron Johnson.
Oh, there we go. Of course, and he gets cut. So that shows you how good that stat is. Yeah. But yeah, man. So who are you? That's awesome. That's some bar trivia for you guys out there. Go ahead and drop that one, and you can credit Addison at the end when you blow your friend's mind with 2020 average up the target stats. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, but I went with the third guy in the NFL last year among wide receivers with a minimum 25 targets. I went with Henry Ruggs. Because I think that's just his game, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's just the downfield threat. Darren Waller is the short to intermediate. And then whatever Bryan Edwards can also do in his sophomore season, that is basically their offense with John Brown being cut, at least passing wise. So I think that Henry Ruggs he's running 9 routes the entire time, and Derek Carr is just going to be chucking him the ball. I think he sees more targets. So that might bring the ADOT down. Because I think that's one of the things that when it comes with high ADOTs, it's because you don't have a high target total, So, but I do think that Henry Ruggs, that is his game. That is who he is. And he's not going to be, in my opinion, like some 100 target wide receiver this year, at least. And I think that Henry Ruggs is, if I'm taking a dart throw on ADOT, I guess I'll go with Henry Ruggs.
I like that call as well. He was right there for me, but I'll switch it up and I'll go with Gabe Davis out in Buffalo. I think that's a guy that won't see enough targets that to destroy that for him. He's a guy that Allen usually throws deep to. So I don't think Davis will be extremely fantasy relevant this season, but I think for this category, he could be there. So I like your Ruggs pick a lot. That's probably who I would have gone with, but I'll switch it up. I'll go with Gabe Davis. Why not? And we'll see what happens out there in Buffalo. There should be plenty of touchdowns to go around, but we'll see how many receptions he ends up with this season. All right, we're going to wrap it up with 2 tight end questions here. I saved the best for last because they're obviously super excited about Kyle Pitts, but we're going to start it off first with our prediction for the total number of touchdowns for the top 3 tight ends in ADP. So Kelsey, Kittle, Waller. How many touchdowns do you think these guys can put up this season?
I tried to map this one out and figure out where I think these guys are going to be, because Kelsey, I think, can be hyper productive in the touchdown category. And has those little weird shovel pass things that they do on the 3-yard line to him. Kittle and Waller have historically not really been tight end scorers. And I think that was Kittle's biggest thing was he always had all the yards, but never really scored. And Waller's kind of similar too, even with all the targets and stuff. Which is really weird because he's 6'7", something like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with I felt good to do a low 20s number. So I went with 23, which I think kind of splits the difference there. I think that if Kelsey can get to double digits like he did last year, 10 or 11, I feel confident that between Kittle and Waller, they can get maybe 6 each or 7.5 or 7.6, something like that. So I went with 23 for the 3 of them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was very similar. I was looking at that. I was like, I think Kelsey will probably get half by himself.
Right.
Waller, I think, is still good for maybe a little bit closer to that than where Kittle will be at. End up, and I think Kittle will get like 5 again, because that's what he does. But I went with 27. And I think that way I was kind of working it back too. I think I'll give Kittle 5. And then so that it leaves 22 for the rest of them. So I think you get Kelsey with 12 to 13, Waller 9 to 10. I'm hoping for a big year from him. So I went with 27 total for those top 3. And we're going to wrap this one up. Last question here. This is about Kyle Pitts. We're going to predict the number of receptions for the young rookie tight end. Apparently the leader in fantasy points, even amongst the receivers, Kyle Pitts. So what you got, Addison?
I'm going with 72 because I think that he can do it. I feel like a lot of people think that that's really high. And obviously the biggest backlash is, well, tight ends don't perform in their rookie year and he needs to have the best rookie tight end season of all time. And, blah, 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 blah. And that's not Kyle Pitts, in my opinion. Like people say, like, we said the same thing about Evan Ingram and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, but like Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts. They're going to throw the ball 600 plus times. I really believe that even with Calvin Ridley there, and a lot of people want Russell Gage to have a good breakout year too, as like a deep sleeper because of what he did at the end of the year last year without Julio. I think Kyle Pitts is much more of the Julio replacement than Russell Gage is. I think he's the second target on this team. I think he can have upwards of 120 targets and still get targeted in the short to intermediate range or like what we saw, his one catch in the preseason where it was kind of like that kind of drag route thing from lining up across or next to a lineman. So that kind of touches, I think Arthur Smith can be really good at generating those types of things for him, which could lead to a higher reception percentage, even on lower-ish targets. But if he gets 100 to 120, I feel really confident in his ability to get the ball short to intermediate, also get those big long plays like what we saw at Florida as well. So I feel good about 72.
Dang, I like it. So is he your tight end 4 for 2021? Or
it's between him and TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
If you ask me tomorrow, it's probably a different answer.
Yeah.
The tiebreaker for me between the two, when I answered kind of that question on draft day, is TJ Hawkinson is a discount of 1 round on Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like,
I
love TJ Hawkinson too. Like I think he has a breakout year. I think this is a crazy year for tight ends. I think I think all 5 of them could have over 200 fantasy points, which only Kelsey and Waller did last year. Like all 5 of them. And Mark Andrews might even as well too, with all the wide receivers that get hurt in Baltimore. And it's So I think all 5 of them are going to be fantastic, and it's going to be really fun.
It's as much as like what I said earlier about Hurts, him being a polarizing quarterback. I think Pitts is going to be just a player that is going to be so intriguing right out of the gate this year. He mentioned everyone talks about how it takes tight ends a bit. This dude is completely different. I mean, this dude is a completely different breed. And that's why Atlanta took him at 4 overall, and then later moved on from Julio Jones. I think he's in for a big year. I gave him 67 receptions. So just a little bit behind where you're at. That might be a little bit more conservative. But I think if you drafted Kyle Pitts, where a lot of people took him in redraft, you need him to hit that 70 number, probably to put up a really, really, really huge season because he's got to be top 5 then. But it's going to be super exciting, and he's in an offense that we should get to see him featured right away, which is a lot of fun. And I know that dynasty owners are really looking forward to this kid because everyone's like, this is a guy is like Darren Waller, but I'm getting him, early on, not waiting till, whatever Waller broke out at 27 or 26. And, it's kind of like we were robbed of all those years and now we're going to get it.
20, dude. He's 20 years old until I think the beginning of October. He's 20.
that is crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. So it's going to be fun to watch, and we'll get to see it right out of the gate. But man, Addison, appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out, doing all these. Some of these were off the wall. So I appreciate all that research and analysis that you had. I will, if anyone asks me about some quarterback spike analysis, I'll be like, Addison Hayes really knows his stuff when it comes to quarterback spikes. But bro, really, really appreciate it. As we wrap this one up, why don't you just remind the people where they can find your work, where they can follow you?
At @AmazeHayes_ on Twitter. The DLF YouTube channel. That's where all of my content goes. So you can go and you can even, kind of look through and watch the stuff, all the backlog of stuff. Again, not just from me, but from a lot of the DLF team and video content and stuff. And we're making, like I said, like an actively concerted effort to grow that YouTube channel and make it a lot better. Like we've added more people that are specifically going to be doing video content. So I strongly encourage everybody to please check out the DLF YouTube channel for content on a near daily basis as well. And that's like, if you're not convinced on Kyle Pitts, you're wondering where all this Kyle Pitts love is. I have an entire 12-minute video dedicated to why I love Kyle Pitts for 2021. So you can go check that out. People have commented saying that I convinced them, I've, validated them, all that stuff like that from that video. But there's a lot of other stuff and other content, like I said, not just from me, on that DLF YouTube channel that I would love if you guys would just go and check out and subscribe to.
Awesome. Yep. And I highly recommend it. It's one of the few things this time in my life, unfortunately, has gotten so much more busy over the last year or two. I don't get to absorb as much content as I would like, but I definitely have been checking out those videos, and it's just awesome to see the growth that and I can definitely tell that you guys have put a lot of effort into it. So guys, definitely go check that out. Stay right here locked into the War Zone YouTube as well. I know Memphis will be back with his annual Hot Take Hotline tomorrow night. So looking forward to all the hot takes on the War Zone, and I'll be back later in the week, get you guys covered for the week 1 preview. So for Addison and myself, appreciate you guys. Get ready for some football. We're just a few days away, but we'll catch you later in the week. We'll see you later.